Raider Nation, what is going on? Welcome back to the Raider D podcast, your number one source for daily Raiders news, rumors, and information right here on YouTube and around the social medias. Happy to have all of you here. We're going to be talking about Maxx Crosby and a few controversial things that he said in regards to the inconsistency nature of the Las Vegas Raiders and how he is kind of filling Myles Garrett and how things have just not been working out for either one of these absolutely amazing defensive linemen. And we're going to get into all that and more, plus all of your comments. So make sure you're dropping down in the comments below. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from. I always love to see where the Raider Nation is spread out because we are so far and diverse, yet always united in our love for the Las Vegas Raiders. So let's get this thing kicking off tonight, talking about good old Maxx Crosby and some of the things that he said. And could we be reading into this? Are these the tea leaves that he is basically announcing that he will no longer be with the Las Vegas Raiders within the next year or two? Well, I hope not, because I absolutely love Maxx Crosby on this team. He is a phenomenal defensive end, but you have to admit, this poor guy has played his entire career with the Raiders, and every single year there is all these high expectations, and then the Raiders never live up to them, yet Maxx Crosby is putting his all into it. I see we got some people in here all the way from Oregon with Scott. Got E.D. Mazing in here from Pennsylvania. Manny in here, or Maney Dunlap in here from Delaware. What is going on? Got Glenn checking in from West Virginia and Keith from Michigan. You see what I'm talking about, Raider Nation? The Raiders are all over the place. We have literally had people check in from Japan, New Zealand, Australia, England, everywhere, all over the world. It is absolutely awesome to see all of you guys. So I want to know, guys, what is your opinion in regards to what Maxx Crosby said? If you haven't heard it, basically, I'll just summarize it for you. He basically said, in response to what Myles Garrett said about the Cleveland Browns and how Myles, has spent his whole career there, 10 years. He wants the Cleveland Browns to win a Super Bowl, and after 10 years, it just hasn't happened. That franchise is absolutely dysfunctional. And Maxx Crosby made the same statement of he feels for Myles Garrett because the Raiders every year have been dysfunctional. Like, we finally get a good defensive line, and he's like, yes, this is really going well. And the next year, everybody is gone because the Raiders can't seem to keep good talent, and we keep having all of these coaching changes. So I think part of the problem, too, is, remember, he was calling for Antonio Pierce. In fact, he basically threatened requesting a trade if Antonio Pierce was not the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. And because of that, and part of that, Antonio Pierce is the head coach of the Raiders. And now the Raiders are one of the worst teams in the NFL this season, and part and due, of course, to the tremendous amount of injuries that this team has suffered throughout this season, right? So when you have as many injuries as the Raiders have had, it's hard to be successful because all of our star players have gone down, and we don't have a star quarterback to begin with, but we've had 3 different quarterbacks this season. That is not a recipe for success. Maybe if Antonio Pierce keeps his job for one more year and we don't have all of the injuries, Brock Bowers is still the best tight end in the NFL, and we can get a franchise quarterback or Aiden O'Connell. The smart thing is you just let Aiden O'Connell be the starter from the beginning, which is what they should have did from the beginning of this year, and see what you got with the kid. Maybe even if you get your franchise quarterback, you want him to sit for a little bit, and Aiden O'Connell is your guy for next season. That could very well be the case. And I would be okay with that. As long as Aiden O'Connell is able to produce and we can make a playoff run. In which case, I think Maxx Crosby is super happy. But one of the things that he did bring up, guys, that we have to pay attention to is he talked about his contract. He doesn't have any more guaranteed money. And so there are some things that are going to have to be talked about in the offseason with this team. He is talking about contract negotiations. Now remember, he's got a couple years left on his contract. And they just gave him a $6 million bonus just for being Maxx Crosby at the beginning of this season. And now he is wanting negotiations again. And I'm sorry, as much as I love my guy, Maxx Crosby, but is contract negotiations what you should be worried about right now, Max? You're already super rich, my dude. You're already super rich. You're richer than the vast majority of mankind will ever be. And so for me, this is a chink in the armor of the loyalty of Maxx Crosby to the Las Vegas Raiders. Drop comments down below. We're gonna get into it. This is an open board night, so we're gonna get into all your guys' comments tonight. Bring them in hot and furious. Rodney Wiggins, what's going on, my man? It seems like this team deliberately fails and lets its fan base down. It's sad being a fan. I don't think this franchise really cares about its fan base. I think you're right, but I think you're wrong. I think Mark Davis does care about the fan base. Mark Davis fired McDaniels because the fan base were screaming. And I think Mark Davis wants a winning team. I think Mark Davis doesn't know how to build that. Hopefully, with Tom Brady becoming a part owner now, bring some professionalism, it will finally start to kick in. We'll see how it goes over the next couple of years for sure. Jason Marshall checking in from Denver. What is going on? Salute to my man in enemy territory. Absolutely phenomenal. Thank you for checking in. Francis checking in from Texas and Cali, depending on the month. You must be a truck driver. You're all over the map, my brother. FG Zombie Rez. That is a scary YouTube profile. We are trash, the laughing stock of the NFL. I don't know if we are the laughing stock of the NFL. I think right now the Giants are worse. I think the Jags are worse. I think Carolina is close, and the Saints aren't far behind us. Jason, Max knows Telesco will lowball him way out. I mean that's a possibility. That is a possibility. But remember, Telesco did give him that $6 million bonus just for being Maxx Crosby. So, I mean, at the same time, listen, Maxx Crosby is phenomenal, but he is one guy. You always got to keep that in mind because Maxx Crosby's not winning a Super Bowls. Neither is Myles Garrett winning Super Bowls for, the Browns. So when it comes down to it, it's a quarterback's game. It's an offensive game. If you're not putting points on the board, it doesn't matter how good your defensive end is. And in my opinion, Maxx Crosby is integral to this team. The work ethic, the leadership, everything that he brings to this team is integral. And you do everything that you can to keep him. However, if he just demands to be set free to go chase his dreams in Detroit, so long. Be gone. No one above the shield. Remember that. No one above the shield. Mongo Slade, what is up, man? Maxx Crosby is just a shiny toy for the Raiders. This team is bad, and his play doesn't do much to affect winning. Get multiple draft picks for this guy. I mean, the Raiders could do a hard reset. That is for sure. You could do a hard reset. Now, imagine you give up Maxx Crosby. Listen, if you got a high first-round draft pick for him, then I would say do it. I would say do it in a heartbeat because there's a generational player called Abdul Carter, who's a defensive end in Penn State, much to the tune of Micah Parsons. I think he has a higher upside than Maxx Crosby. So if you could end up with Abdul Carter as a rookie for Maxx Crosby, I would say okay, because you're resetting the market. You're resetting your cap space. You're saving a ton of cap space with him. and you still end up with a massively impactful guy. You re-sign Chason, who is a former first-round draft pick, defensive end, who has really shown that he still belongs in the NFL, that he was not a bust. He may not be a superstar, but he is very serviceable as a defensive end. And then you bring back Malcolm Kuntz, right? You bring back Chason and Malcolm Kuntz, and you let those guys work. And then you draft Abdul Carter and you trade Maxx Crosby. If, and I'm only saying if, Maxx Crosby in the offseason is going to Tom Telesco and saying, hey, I want a $60 million bonus. I want half of our cap space. In which case you say, you know what, Max, you're great and we love you. Once a Raider, always a Raider, so we hope you'll come back and retire as a Raider, but we just traded you for the number 6 or number 7 overall draft pick. Good luck. El Salcedo, what is up, man? I don't want Crosby to leave, he says, but it is a business. Lost Mack as well. That is true. In this regard, Khalil Mack is a Hall of Famer. Khalil Mack is a Hall of Famer. Letting Khalil go, I would go back in time and I would change John Gruden's mind on that. I would work the deal that Khalil wanted because that dude's a Hall of Famer. Will Maxx Crosby ever have a 20-sack season? Will he ever have a 17-sack season? I don't know. But Khalil Mack is clearly a Hall of Fame dude. Hall of Fame talent. And he was more versatile than Maxx Crosby because he could play linebacker or defensive end. Whereas Max cannot play linebacker. He is just a defensive end. That's it. So in this case, I would rather give up Maxx Crosby if we could get the 23-year-old Khalil Mack in exchange. Billy Davis, what's going on? What's going on, man? So what up, Raider Nation and Raider D? Man, we're just talking about this drama. It seems like every couple of months we have drama that we got to talk about. And now it's Maxx Crosby. Just like last year, we were talking about the drama with Maxx Crosby given the ultimatum of either you bring back Antonio Pierce or all options are on the table. Now he's talking about the dysfunction and all of this stuff. And you know what? It would have been one thing if on the Rush podcast, if Maxx Crosby was only talking about the dysfunction and inconsistency of this team and this organization. But the fact that he brought into it that he and his team are going to have negotiations with the Raiders franchise in the offseason. Where there's smoke, there's fire, people, and this one could have some truth to it that Maxx Crosby is laying the groundwork to have himself traded away from the Raiders. Natomas, I hope I said that right, brother. Loyalty is rare in today's game. I say draft Travis Hunter so we can do to KC what they did to us with Tyreek Hill. Well, listen, guys, if I don't know, brother, did you see my Tyreek Hill trade proposition that could happen? Listen, Miami's got to they got to get out from under him. He's going to be 30 years old, but the dude is still absolutely a freak of a wide receiver. And I think that the Raiders would do well to make a trade with Miami. You could get him for a 3rd-round draft pick and possibly a 5th, which basically we got the 3rd-round pick for Devontae Adams. And I'm telling you, Tyreek Hill is much more scary to defenses. We could end up with Tyreek Hill as our X receiver, Jacoby Myers as our slot receiver, and then Trey Tucker as our wide receiver. That would be, and then you got Brock Bowers, best tight end in the NFL, with Michael Mayer as a supporting cast. That's a pretty vicious wide receiving core. And now if you went out and you got a Travis Hunter, listen, you also got to go back and you got to look at what Deion Sanders said. Deion Sanders said that any team that doesn't want to let Travis play offense and defense, don't even call, because the man is going to play both positions in the NFL. That's what he wants to do. That's what his mind is set on, and you have to be prepared for that. Here's the problem, though, with that. With GMs in the NFL, when you're investing a high draft pick for a Travis Hunter, like a pick number 3, 4, 5, or 6, you play him both positions. He's your X receiver and your number one corner, your shutdown corner. What if he gets hurt? You now just lost 2 starting positions with one dude. This is why no NFL team would dare to play him at both positions full time. No way. No way. You can't afford it. The dude goes out for the season. You just lost your best receiver and your best corner. And this is why I don't think it's going to happen for Travis Hunter the way that Deion Sanders is saying it's going to happen. But would I love the Travis Hunter with the Las Vegas Raiders? Yes, absolutely I would. Would I make him a cornerback versus a wide receiver? No. No, I would make him a wide receiver. He is an elite wide receiver who can play corner. But he is better, in my opinion, out there running that offense like nuts. Bernardo Turner, salute, man. Welcome in. Thank you for being here. Tom Brady out the gate is going to start the rebuild process with the Raiders. That's a possibility. We still don't know just how much Tom Brady's influence is going to be on this team. He's a busy, busy man. He's very busy. We don't know. Is it going to be a little? Is it going to be a little bit more? Is it going to be a lot? Who knows at this point? John Leon says, I'm all in trade Maxx. Like I said, man, if Maxx in the offseason starts demanding a bunch of craziness, then you absolutely trade him for a high first-round draft pick. And if possible, if you could get a number 5, number 6 overall draft pick for him, you take it. Because you draft Abdul Carter, you keep Clavion Chase on, and Malcolm Kuntz. There's your 3 defensive ends. And you've reset you've lowered your cap space significantly. And you have a dude who is literally the clone of Micah Parsons. Who wouldn't want Micah Parsons on their team? And how crazy would it be? Just imagine this. What if the Tom Telesco did something crazy? Myles Garrett requests a trade, and the Raiders trade for him, and they get him for a second-round draft pick. Next year's second-round draft pick. You put Myles Garrett, Abdul Carter, Malcolm Kuntz, Chase on, Christian Wilkins. Woo, that would be a nasty defensive line. El Cesaro says, I don't think it's a rebuild. It's more of a retool. Wilkins wouldn't have come to Vegas if the Raiders were rebuilding. I got to disagree with you on that because, that's exactly the exact words that Mark Davis said when he hired Josh McDaniels. It's not a rebuild. It's a retool. We're just adding to it. And then they went out and they got Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams didn't think they were going to be in rebuild. Boy, was he wrong. We went straight into rebuild. Tear down and rebuild, which was crazy. Like, what was the point of even rebuilding? What needed to be rebuilt was the defense. The offense was putting up points. It was nuts. Bernardo, love Maxx Crosby, but the Raiders can and will survive if he doesn't want to be a Raider. Maxx too loyal to drop the Raiders. Listen, at the end of the day, the dude wants to win a Super Bowl. He has made it crystal clear that he wants a gold jacket. He wants to be in the Hall of Fame. He wants to be the greatest defensive end of all time. I've never heard him say he wants to be the greatest defensive end of Raider history. He says it about himself. He wants to be the greatest defensive end of all time. No mention of being in silver and black. Now, he said things about wanting to be a Raider for life and loves the Raiders, loves the Raider fan base and all that. But just like Davante Adams, who grew up a Raiders fan, said that he wasn't going anywhere, he wasn't going to request no trade. He requested a trade, jump ship. Do not put it past any one individual. And this is why we always say in the Raider Nation, no one's above the shield. Because at the end of the day, it is a business, and loyalty only goes so far as a paycheck and a Super Bowl victory. Listen, do you think Patrick Mahomes would want to stay in Kansas City if they were routinely missing the playoffs, going 2-15? No, he would request a trade. He's only stayed with the Chiefs so long because they're winning Super Bowl rings. Of course he's going to stay. David King Raider says, I just shut up. And what are you talking about? I'm pretty sure that meant to say, I just showed up. I just shut up. Yeah, we're just talking about Maxx Crosby and him talking about the inconsistency with the Raiders year after year throughout his career, identifying with Myles Garrett, and him talking about in the offseason, there's going to be some negotiations. There's going to be some talks with the Raiders. And what does that mean? Does that mean he wants more guaranteed money? Does that mean he wants a bigger paycheck? Does that mean he wants a bigger say? We don't know. We don't know yet. I mean, obviously, he's made it clear he's not happy with what's going on with the Raiders. None of us are. So it makes perfect sense. Ha Yin Raider Kihi. I hope I said that right. I apologize if I didn't. What is going on? What did I miss? Yep, just talking about that. The same thing, talking about Maxx Crosby and him talking about contract negotiations when he still has a couple years on his contract, which is a sign of unhappiness. He wouldn't be talking about contract negotiations if we were going into the playoffs. Maciel Rain. I don't blame Crosby. He is tired of being a scrub team. Raiders didn't want to win. Raiders just proved they'd rather win meaningless games. I'm glad Crosby wants out. Maybe Mark Davis wakes up and puts his foot down. I don't know. JM, me too. Money for sure. And bigger say all of the above. I mean, I think the Raiders should pay me more money. I think they should pay me some money, even $5, for the fact that I have to cover their nonsense day after day after day, and we can't just have a winning season. I came into this season, guys, with such high hopes. Such high hopes. I literally was saying that I think the Raiders could realistically win 14 games. Boy, was I wrong. Because I had no idea that they would start Gardner Minshew over Aiden O'Connell. Just disaster. Raider Nation for life, just win, baby. Wants to bring Raiders back to greatness. That's what he says. He wants to win a Super Bowl with the Raiders. He was drafted by the Raiders. Davante didn't get drafted by the Raiders. You make no sense sometimes, dumbass. Hey, man, don't kill the messenger, bro. Don't kill the messenger. I'm literally just telling you what he said. That's it. That's it. Do not kill the messenger. If you got a problem with what Maxx Crosby said, please go and comment on the Rush podcast what you just told me and tell him that. because he's the one who said all this. I'm just reporting it. Dark Side says he's talking about more guaranteed money for a sacrifice he's made, which is well deserved. Listen, I get that. I get that. But again, do you think Maxx Crosby would go on the Rush podcast if we were the second seed in the playoff picture right now? Do you think he would be putting it out there that we're going to have some conversations about my contract when you still got 2 years left on your contract, bud, and you're still richer than 99.9% of all of humanity? You are at $100 million dude. You are in the top 1% of humanity. That means 99% of us are all looking to lick his backside for a few bucks. And he's talking about more money. That's not talking about wanting to win. That's not talking about wanting to build a better team. That's not talking about all about the silver and black. That's not talking about Raider Nation, let's go win a Super Bowl. That's talking about, I need a new Rolls Royce. I need to make sure I got that new Rolls Royce. For me, this is something that Maxx Crosby has never done. And when you have a losing culture with the Raiders or any organization, the stars of that organization start looking at greener pastures. It's either greener pastures or you pay me more money because I'm a superstar. But that's not the Raider way. There is no one above the Raider Shield. There is no player above the Raider Shield. And we will not win a Super Bowl because of Maxx Crosby alone. It's not going to happen. We've had Maxx Crosby his entire career. He's been top 5 defensive end every single year, and we've made the playoffs with him once. And it was the year that the Raiders offense was starting to click. Not so much the defense. So I love Maxx Crosby. Don't get me wrong. I love Maxx Crosby. Do I think Maxx Crosby should get some more guaranteed money? Listen, wasn't even asking for nothing, and they gave him a $6 million bonus at the beginning of this season. Without him even asking, they're just like, we got some extra cash lying around here. We like you, Max. Bam, there's $6 million. Go buy yourself a dozen Rolls Royces. I wish that the Raider Nation could get that kind of love from this ownership. I wish that we, the people that pay for his Rolls Royces, by watching his games, buying his jerseys, and everything else, I wish we could get some love from Mark Davis and the Raiders. I wish we could. You know what I would do if I was Mark Davis? If I was Mark Davis, I would have made that home game absolutely free to anybody who showed up in Raiders attire. If you weren't already a season ticket holder, if you just showed up because we've put out such a crap, garbage team this season, if you just show up and support the Raiders, you get in for free. No, we don't get that kind of love, but we'll give Maxx Crosby $6 million just for being Maxx Crosby. And now he wants to talk about contract negotiations. Are any of us going to live in a mansion like Maxx Crosby ever in our lives? I love Maxx Crosby as a player. I love Maxx Crosby as a teammate and a team leader of the Raiders. But I am so disappointed that he would even put that out there, because that's a rub in the face of all the people who pay up the wazoo to go watch a game, who bought his jerseys, that he's going to talk about he needs more guaranteed millions of dollars. Well, some people can't even pay their rent. yet they will go and buy a Maxx Crosby jersey because they love this dude so much. To me, this just goes to show, don't make an idol out of a human being. Don't do it, because they'll let you down. And I'm very disappointed in my boy Maxx Crosby. Very disappointed. Sorry, I got on a little tangent there. Rich, what is up, man? What's the next move now? We are rolling with AOC and trading our top pick or taking best O-line available. Listen, I tell you right now, if we are the number 6th overall pick, if the draft started tomorrow, we got the number 6 overall draft pick, the Raiders still have a possibility of landing Shedeur Sanders. And I talked about this in my live stream before, and it's pretty simple. And that is that there's no way in hell that Deion Sanders is going to allow his son to go to Tennessee or to Cleveland. And the Giants, insider reports are that the Giants are more interested in Cam Ward than Shedeur Sanders. So it still could very well be that Shedeur Sanders falls right into the lap of the Raiders at pick number 6. Now, the Raiders could use some help if the Raiders were to not win these last 2 games, and Jacksonville were to win a game, Tennessee were to win a game, or Cleveland were to win a game. We'd move up 1 spot. In reality, what we need is for Tennessee to win a game, because New England is not going to take a quarterback. Jacksonville's not going to take a quarterback, and Tennessee and Cleveland will, or they would try. Now, there are some draft boards who actually have Jalen Milroe going to Cleveland, that they are okay letting Milroe sit for a year behind Deshaun Watson and then dump Watson after this season or next season and then starting Jalen Milroe. That would be a risky move because Jalen Milroe is not proven that he is a top 10. He's not even proven he's a first-round quarterback. So there's that possibility. But if Jacksonville were to win a game, it is still almost certain that the Raiders would end up with Shedeur, because Deion's made it pretty clear there are some teams he's not going to let him go to, and those are terrible teams with no talent around him. The Raiders are not a terrible team with no talent. The Raiders have talent. The Raiders were poorly coached and managed this year. Now, you can attribute that to Antonio Pierce, rookie head coach, growing pains. Dan Campbell didn't have success his first year. A lot of other coaches didn't have success their first year. So maybe that's just what it is with Antonio. Maybe he needs to get his foot under him a little bit. Maybe he felt a little bit roughshotted by Tom Telesco forcing Gardner Minshew to be the starter. Those are all possibilities. But the Raiders are, talent-wise, we're not that bad of a team at all. We're definitely not what our record shows. We've got much more talent than that. Dude, we literally have the best tight end in all of NFL right now, and he's a rookie with 3 different quarterbacks, and he's still breaking records like crazy. Unstoppable, dude. So I don't think that the Raiders go all line if they were at pick number 6. Listen, if we didn't end up with Shedeur Sanders, my opinion is that the Raiders would take the best player available. You're going to take a superstar. So if it's a Travis Hunter that's sitting there, possibly McMillan, possibly Abdul Carter, possibly Ashton Genty, who is a generational running back that we haven't seen since Barry Sanders. So right now, as it stands, if the Raiders win another game, we're screwed. We're not walking away with a superstar. Last year was a fluke. No way Brock Bowers falls to us at 13 on any draft board. Every single draft board out there, every credible one, had Brock Bowers going within the top 5 or 6 picks. So the fact that Brock Bowers fell to us at 13 that was a godsend. That was a blessing for the Raiders. I don't see that happening 2 years in a row where you're going to get an Abdul Carter or even an Ashton Genty at pick 13. Just not going to happen. So now we're going to be picking, somebody who's going to be a good player, they're going to be a starter, but you're not picking a superstar. But if the Raiders lose this week and the following week, we're between picks 6 and 3. Could still end up with Shedeur Sanders as your quarterback. If not, could still end up with somebody like an Abdul Carter, McMillan, or Genty. All three of those dudes are going to be instant day one starters, and they will have, in my opinion, possibly fantastic careers in the NFL. Raider Ryan, what is up, my dude? Biggest supporter of the channel in the house. What is going on, my man? Hope the Raider Nation had a good Christmas. No, the Queefs won't won, but mine was great with the family. Well, man, congratulations to you for, I know you just got married and everything, and that's fantastic that you guys got to spend your holidays together and be with the family. Love it, man. I love it, love it, love it. Super awesome. We got Rhino says, too bad Jalen Carter fell to us, and we went with Tyree. Yeah, that was a crazy pick. Tyree has been playing a lot better. He has been playing a lot better, so I give him his kudos. He has improved. But yeah, Jalen was clearly the better pick up there. Francis 3 had a foot issue, and it was known he was a you mean Tyree. He was a project defensive end. Only the Raiders tell a guy at 7 and know he won't play year 1 like idiots. Yeah, I mean, the fact that they knew that he would have a very hard time being a year 1 starter. I mean, he played last year, so he played year 1, but he just wasn't good, right? Did not look good at all. But to pick him at pick number 17 when you had Jalen Carter sitting there, that was not smart. Now, hopefully, moving forward, Tyree is going to progress as he's been doing. Hopefully, he will progress into a good interior defensive tackle, because I don't see him as a defensive end. He is just way too slow. Okay, what's going on? Any QB we get will be better than what we have now at QB. I mean, they said the same thing about Minshew last year, right? Minshew's so much better than Aiden O'Connell and, Carter Bradley, and, didn't pan out that way. Did not pan out that way at all. So careful what you wish for, because the Raiders could end up with somebody worse. And then you start them because they got the names, they got the nameplate, right? I'll tell you this, though. Because I was so against Tom Brady becoming an owner of the Raiders, but now he is. You got to embrace him. He's a part of the Raiders. So past is past, water under the bridge. I do respect that dude's football acumen. And he has helped to train Shedeur Sanders. Has a close personal relationship with him. And I do believe that Tom Brady is a good judge of quarterback talent, because he was the best of the best when it came to it in his era. Therefore, I trust that Tom Brady has his eyes on the quarterbacks coming out this year and next year. And if anybody is going to have the biggest say, it's going to be Tom Brady. And hopefully he makes the right choice. So if we end up with Shedeur, I guarantee you it's because Tom Brady said the kid's going to be a baller in the NFL. And that just makes me happy. That just makes me happy. Now, once he gets in there, we'll have to see. Right? We'll have to check it out, and we'll have to see. Just like, if you guys don't already see, that we got merch Raiders hats, NFL official from Fanatics that we have hooked up with, and you can buy them right off this live stream or any of my other videos. Just click on the shopping cart or go into the description. It should pop up if you don't already see. I selected I curated a few of my favorites from Fanatics. So go over there and get yourself some Raiders gear, because no matter what, it's still Raider Nation for life. Win, lose, draw, doesn't matter. Silver and black till we die, baby. That's how we roll up around here. Now, with that being said, Rhino says Tyree was 3 years ago. Mayer was 2 years ago. Oh, you must be talking to somebody else, because I don't know what you're talking about. Raider Ryan, what's up, man? I know the nation is up in arms about Maxx and his frustration is speaking publicly about it. Man just wants to get paid and said no guaranteed money in his contract. Raiders. Yeah, I get that. I do. I get that. But again, I pose the question, if we were going to the playoffs right now, would he have said that on his podcast? I don't think he would have. I'm just throwing that out there. I think if the Raiders were going to the playoffs, even if we were a wild card, I don't think he's talking about the fact that he doesn't have any guaranteed money right now. When you're on a losing team and a losing franchise, you have nothing else to worry about because you're not going to the playoffs. You're not going to a Super Bowl. So the next thing is, well, I need a new Rolls Royce, because if I'm going to play in this dump of a organization, I want to get paid. But here's the problem with that. Does that make the Raiders better? Here's a guy who's not even playing. He's not even playing. He's missed the most time this season, and this is one of his worst statistical years of his career, and he's talking about, I need more money. That's something that Maxx has never done. And this is what I'm getting at. I'm not faulting Maxx for this. I'm saying this is a symptom of the cancer of losing. When an organization continuously loses, its star players start seeing greener pastures elsewhere. Just like Devontae did. Just like Myles Garrett is doing right now with the Browns. And so many other players. And Maxx Crosby is doing the same thing. I don't blame him. This is not me dogging Maxx Crosby. I'm just explaining the situation and why this could be the end of Maxx Crosby with the Raiders. When a player starts talking like Maxx is, and it's no longer about the team, it's no longer about we need to do everything to make the Raiders better next year. When they're not talking about those things, but they start talking about, yeah, it's going to be an interesting offseason. We're going to have a lot of conversations with the team. I don't have any guaranteed money, and this team has been terrible since I got here and inconsistent and coaches, and I understand how Myles Garrett feels. That's the door. That's the door that starts opening. That was the door that led Davante Adams to New York. Once you open that door, it's really hard to close it. Now, he has a lot of affection from Mark Davis. They have a very close personal relationship. And so maybe Maxx Crosby has this ability to do this. But what I would say is, Maxx Crosby, if you want to make this team better, you want to win a Super Bowl, the last thing you need to be worrying about is money. When his net worth is over $60 million right now. Right now, today, the dude is worth over $60 million. His contract, if it plays out, he's worth over $100 million. Last thing he needs to worry about is money. What can you spend all of that money on anyway? I don't know. I've never been rich, so I don't know. But that's the scary thing. Again, all the trade rumors and talks about Devontae Adams. And Devontae Adams will come out and be like, yeah, if I wanted to be traded, I'd be traded. I'm here. I'm not asking for nothing. I'm sticking it out. I'm with the Raider Nation, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, he flew the coop. Do not think that Maxx Crosby won't do the same thing. 3 clicks and the truth says trade his butt while he's worth the max. And then he spelled the max. No pun intended, right? At Raider D, maybe at that level, the people in charge of Max money, higher pay, higher finances to pay. More money you make, obviously you do have more expenses. But I mean, at the same time, do you need to wear a $100,000 chain? Do you need it? Is that a necessity in your life? No. I would never, if I was a billionaire, I would never wear a piece of jewelry that was worth more than a couple $100. I have a small watch collection that my family, my wife and kids have gotten me over the years. Not a single one is worth more than $200. I like watches, but I don't see the difference between my Timex and a Rolex. So I'm not buying a Rolex. I could care less. So I understand, like, a lot of these people say, oh, well, they're rich, so they have more expenses. But they waste a lot of money too. Have you seen Maxx Crosby's jewelry? And I guarantee it's not his only set. It's a waste. So again, like for me, if I were Maxx Crosby's, if I was his, what do they call that? The person in charge of his media relations, I would be like, yo, Max, let's not talk about your contract in public. Let's not put that out there to the fan base. That's a bad look. You're richer than 99.99999% of the Raider fan base. Let's not throw that in their face. We'll talk about that behind doors with Mark Davis and Tom Brady and the ownership. It's just a bad look for Maxx Crosby. And again, I understand why he's saying it, and I'm defending him here. Yes, PR guy. Thanks, Lou. Appreciate you. I understand it. Why he's frustrated and he's talking about these things. Again, it's a symptom of the cancer of losing. But it's not good PR. It's bad PR. And it's opening up that door to be traded. And then that's it. Because once you open that door, it's over. Lou says, my Apple Watch costs over $500. Well, I feel sorry for you that you bought an Apple Watch. Because I have an iPhone that does the same thing as your watch. So I don't need it. I would never need an Apple Watch. Does not make any sense. But some people like that stuff, maybe like for health trackers and stuff like that. I get it. Apple's sick. They suck you into their whole platform, their ecosystem. Like I have a Mac Mini. I have a iPhone. My wife has iPhone. My kids have iPhones. We're all linked into that same ecosystem. And I hate it. I hate the fact that we went Apple, because the second we went Apple, we can't get out. We're stuck for life in Apple. Absolutely sucks. I hate it. I wish we never would have went Apple, because now if we ever want to get out, it's going to be such a hassle. Bernardo says Apple sucks. I'll say it sucks, but it just sucks that they lock you into their ecosystem and you can't get out. Rich says, I had an Apple Watch, sold it 1 month after, was just a waste. LOL. Yeah, I never seen like the smartwatch thing. My wife bought me a smartwatch, like it was just Chinese brand or something. And I wore it for like a month, and it was cool because like it would count your steps and all this stuff. And I'm like, Okay, great. I had, 5,000 steps or whatever today. Who cares? It's what I do anyway. It's a really nice looking watch. It's cool, but I like the functionality of it. I never used it. I never used it. I like the old school analog watches. So after that experience, my wife's just always like, if she buys me a new watch or something, it's an analog watch. Rhino says, I still roll with a flip phone. Motorola from way back in the day. But I remember when the Motorola flip phone came out, you had to have like a 730 credit score. And those things were, God, like they were like over $1,000, which back in the day, that's the equivalent of like $10,000 for a phone today. They were insane just to make a phone call. That's all you could do on them. Couldn't do anything else. Hello, Moto, LOL. Yeah. Three Clicks says my Swatch is 8 years old. Yeah, man. Some of the old school tech is just better, man. Old school tech is sometimes just better. Bernardo Turner says, I downloaded iOS 16. My perfectly good working iPhone 10 crashed. Apple said it was not compatible with iOS 16. Well, you know what? I bought an iPhone 6 off the internet used. And the thing was not working right. It was from Amazon. And I took it to an iPhone store. And this is what got me hooked on Apple. Short story here. I'm going to tell you guys this. I go to the iPhone store and I was like, "Hey man, I just bought this used phone and there's something wrong with it. It's not like the back is like starting to swell and stuff. I've only had it for a couple of weeks. It's weird. What's going on?" They take it apart, they look at it and they're like, "Yeah, you have an exploding battery. So this is a fire hazard. So we're going to give you a brand new iPhone 6." Now, like the iPhone 10 was already out. I'm a cheapskate, so I buy everything used. My cars, phones, everything I got to buy used. So I'm like, "Oh, that is so cool." Like total customer service. I bought this thing for like $200 off of Amazon and I'm getting a brand new one that's worth like $900. I love Apple. This is so cool. So it hooked me into their ecosystem. The problem is just a year, 2 years later, my phone still works just fine, perfectly fine. They announced that they're no longer going to support the iPhone 6, which means your iPhone will no longer work. So I literally had to go and buy an iPhone 12. And so I buy an iPhone 12. And then 2 years later, I turn it in for a warranty because it was messing up and couldn't figure out what it was. So I turned in on warranty and they send me a used iPhone 12 that was worse than the one that I gave them. That was in better condition. That was mine. And I'm like, "What the heck, man? I thought I was going to get a new phone." And they're like, "Oh, no, we send you refurbished ones." I was like, "Well, this one has a 70% battery life, and my other one had a 92% battery life. How is that better?" And they're like, "Oh, well, sorry, you'll just have to upgrade." Well, give me my old phone back. They was like, "No, we can't give you your old phone back. Sorry, you lost it." It was a nightmare. So then I ended up having to buy the iPhone 15. So yeah, that's that. My short story about how I wish I would have never got sucked into Apple products. And I don't know. Maybe one day we will just clean house. We'll stop buying them until they stop supporting stuff, and then we'll just clean house, get rid of everything, and we'll switch over to somebody else. JM says at Raider D, can you talk about the attendance or low Raider Nation in Vegas? Are the local folks embracing Raiders as we had in the East Bay? Listen, man, I've been out there, and I'm going to tell you right now, the love for the Raiders in Las Vegas runs very deep. But here's the problem. You're looking at $300 per seat to go watch a team that sucks. And a lot of these people, they're not making that much money, just like we didn't make in the East Bay. But the difference was you could buy a ticket to the Coliseum for as low as $65 and go watch a Raiders game. You're looking at $300 plus to go watch a Raiders game in Vegas. And so people just can't afford it locally. Now, if the Raiders were making a playoff run, sure, maybe then we start to see silver and black flood our own stadium. But the other problem is, Vegas is a transient city. And so any given Sunday, you could literally have 60,000 brand new people from Kansas City in Vegas, no problem. And they go and they flood our stadium because people aren't buying the tickets because they're $300. But if you're going there to go watch your Super Bowl winning team and you get to go and have a vacation in Vegas, it's a perfect thing. So it's a double-edged sword about the Raiders moving to Vegas. This was the biggest concern of them moving them out of California, is that we would lose home field advantage, and that's exactly what has happened. But winning is always a solution. If you got the best team in the NFL, you're going to have silver and black in that stadium 90%. If you got the worst team in the NFL, maybe 30, 40%. That's just the nature of the beast when you live in a transient city like Las Vegas. Rich Wolf, what's going on? Raiders been sucking. The Bay Area fans, LA fans are not going all the way there to see an ass whooping, no QB play, LOL. You know what? There's a lot of diehards, that still go. The Violator, my buddy, the Violator. He's an icon with the Raiders. Dude still goes to every single home game, and he lives in LA. He drives there. He doesn't even fly. He drives there, just like he used to do when they were in Oakland. He would drive from LA to Oakland. So, there are still people that are rolling out there. I'm up in the Rocky Mountains. I go down there, so there are, still people are going to go down there even though we suck. But not everybody can do it. And it's hard. One thing that is not hard, though, is to get an education. Because I believe that education is one of the most important things in your life. Education changed my life. It can change your life as well. And you know what? Education is changing today. You no longer have to spend $200,000 on a brick and mortar school to get the exact same degree. You can go to Southern New Hampshire University. They have online courses for every degree you could possibly imagine. I've got the link down in the description of this live. It is the first link. Please go and check them out. Fill out the contact card. Have them send you some information. It is absolutely free. No obligation to sign up for any classes, but just look at what they have to offer, because I'm telling you right now, Southern New Hampshire University, they are fully accredited. The degree that you're going to get is going to be accepted by any employer. As an employer myself, I know that I don't care if you went to Stanford, Harvard, or Southern New Hampshire University. If you want to come and be an apprentice, you're going to come in and be an apprentice. All I want to know is that you have the education to do it and that you have an accredited degree. Don't care who from. Now, if you want to go and be the CEO of some Fortune 500 company, yes, maybe you need to go to Harvard. But if you're going to be an accountant, a school teacher, you're going to be into sports management, anything like that, all you need to do is have an accredited degree. And there's absolutely no reason for you to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the same thing that you can get for a fraction of the cost. Please go and check out my friends over at Southern New Hampshire University. And thank you for sponsoring the Raider D podcast. Link is down in the description. Guys, thank you so much for being here on tonight's live to talk about all of this and more. I appreciate each and every single one of you. I got to run, but I will be back again, and make sure that you check out each one of my daily Raiders videos. Also, head over to my other channel, Black Rain Official, second link down in the description, and check out my EDC survival bushcrafting videos that I do over there. Lots of fun. Until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Raiders, just win. For the love of God, baby. Let's go, Raiders.